Last year, 202 million songs have been released, and most of them didn't get even 1,000 plays. How do you cope with that? Is it possible to create a unique brand with no budget? Can you make unique sound without an extensive sound design knowledge, or develop a cohesive visual world without hiring an army of marketers and be successful with it? Can you find your audience without spending all the money you have access to? Sevastok, I'm a singer, songwriter, music producer. I react, make, and talk about music. I'm making a video series about whether the internet can teach me how to invent myself as an artist without getting overwhelmed, shut down by self-doubt, and losing my creativity and motivation to live altogether. This episode is about finding a unique sound. Of course, there is a ton of information on the internet about how to create your own sound, your brand, your visual identity, and there are loads of actionable steps you can take to get to a certain point. But what I learned from my year of what I have learned from my year of working by myself and my 5 years working in the theater as a director assistant is that every project needs systems and direction. You need direction so you know which way to move, and you need systems so decisions become less time-consuming and it can evolve over time. A good system is flexible and attainable. Good direction is determined but confident enough to allow deviation and experimentation while keeping the project on track. What I'm trying to say is that I know I have to take some of these advice. I have to select a few key steps that sounds doable for me and execute and test and see what works for me and what doesn't. Sure, I have grand ideas about how my brand should look like, but that's not where I am right now. And I don't know about you, but I am getting tired of the gap between my ideal self and my current version. There is no way that she holds less value in any way, right? Let's take a look at my favorite upcoming artist of 2024, Sofia Isella. Her short videos about her songs showed up on my feed around 2023, and they have been stuck in my head ever since. Honestly, I really want to do a deep analysis video about Sofia Isella's body of work because I think she's way too underrated. But for now, I want to focus on her unique sound and visual identity and see if I can apply their method to me. And through me, you can see if you can apply it on yourself. I have a dog coming in. Hi, do you want to be in the video? Oh, you're gonna hate this. Okay. Hey, Buddha is here. Hey, Buddha. How you doing? You're hating it up here, don't you? What? You wanna play? You wanna play? You wanna play? Yes, you wanna play too? Oh, yes, yes, I know. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Sofia's music is dark, gritty, and animalistic. She uses plate effects a lot to create a vast, empty industrial space feeling.
'Cause I'm the backyard heathen, the girl he's dreaming. I'll bend him over backwards, give him something to believe in.
She places her vocals heavily in the front and center. It is processed a little bit sharp in the ear, so her lyrics, which are the most distinguishable part of her art, can pierce you through like a dagger. As a performer, she uses her body a lot. She leans back, she makes big movements, theatrical gestures and such. For some, it may be too much, but I think it is uniquely performative and bold. It sticks with you and gets you into the Sofia Isella-ness. Even though I'm going to make a whole another video about how to find the visuals for your music and for your brand, when it comes to really get the feeling of a song, the images or the associations from other arts help a lot. Sofia Isella's visuals have a very limited desaturated color palette. She's wearing grays, blacks, khakis, and mid-tone beiges, always in the dark. If she has like a visual for a song, it is usually concentrated around one surreal or abstract piece of art, and that's also following a limited color palette. And because of that, when you watch her videos, you feel like she's living in a chaotic post-apocalyptic world where it feels like it will not get better.
Which is something we can hardly relate to.
But Sofia's music isn't desperate by any means. I think it is full of rage and it is very intelligent. And because of that, it makes the listener feel powerful and, dare I say, sexy, because I don't know about you, but yeah.
It's hitting the spot.
It's clear that Sofia's brand is still evolving, but it has already gone through a lot of trial and error, and it's pretty crisp. And that goes with the fact that she's only 19. I let that sink in for you. When I look at other artists like Billie Eilish, Chaperone, Aurora, Lana Del Rey, they all seem to have found an essence to them which carries their brand forward no matter how they evolve. Instead of thinking about the work their marketing team invests into their image, I'd like to think about their sound and visual identity as a playground filled with things that they are passionately curious about. Old things can be torn down, new things can be built, but it's their playground nonetheless, for their publishers. So let's build a playground. I curated a playlist of songs that have been the most influential, emotional, and important to me. I listened to that playlist several times, and then, without thinking, I jotted down the most influential artists, musical elements, anything that came to my mind first, and I kept that list short. I didn't allow it to go over 10. And at the end, I identified the most influential musical elements or effects, and I decided that I'm going to explore those in all of my musical projects in the upcoming year. So, how do I define the feeling of my music? I do think that in today's world, it is imperative to think about the visuals of your music, even when you're creating it. When your vibe matches your imagery, people are way more likely to be around. Way easier to set some guidelines now than freak out about cover art and TikToks last minute. So here's what I did. I spent about a year collecting visual inspo. By the way, you don't have to spend a year collecting visual inspo, but I do think that it is very useful to have a vision board with all the things that you like. So my inspiration was like 3D liminal space renders, digital escapism art, which is very close, paintings from Dennis Fredmund and Edward Hopper, and everything aligned with that kind of style, and photos by Lee Young. I really liked the mix of realism and surrealism and the feeling of anemoia, which is a kind of nostalgia you feel for a place or a time that you've never actually experienced.
Howdy, it's Editor Petra here. I realized that I haven't concluded my visual guideline, which is
Kind of important.
so sorry about that. So basically I've decided that I will use transactional spaces like bus stations, roads, empty streets, etc. in my visuals with a grain texture throughout. I'll be alternating between sunny and clean tones and dark and foggy ones, drawing composition inspiration from the paintings I listed. I also plan to include myself on the imagery. Hope that clears things up. I wanted it to be simple, doable, but not too boring. Back to the video.
I went through everything and I selected the arts that I felt most drawn to, and I created a smaller vision board based on the previous categories, and I jotted down notes about what do I feel when I look at this picture, why am I drawn to it, and I was trying to explore common themes and elements. Once I got the emotions and feel down, I used the emotion map by Berkeley and the music map, which is basically a cyclopedia for musical genres. And I selected music that is aligned with those feelings and common themes. I also searched for musical genres that are associated with liminal spaces, and I jotted down a couple of albums, artists that I found interesting, intriguing, or worth exploring later on. Basically, these notes are just my thought process of understanding my desires, my curiosities, my narrative, the feel and sound of my music. These are not set in stone by any means. These are just a good reference point to return to if I need some direction. How do I create the feelings that I collected? You ever had a Have you ever had a concept of a feeling? Have you ever researched the exact key signatures and chord progressions that supposedly evoke that feeling, only to apply them and realize it didn't work? Well, I have. It's quite hard sometimes. You don't always recognize the feeling until it organically takes shape in your music. That's why I only gave myself a few starting points instead of setting rigid rules. These starting points are a group of instruments, sounds, and effects, some genres to explore when I need inspiration, and the most important thing is experimentation. Allowing myself to play, that is the most important part. Let's see if I can apply these principles. A couple of days ago, Andrew Huang dropped an open invite to be featured in a 4 producers flip 1 sample episode. So I'm going to create a beat from that sample. I'm going to hit 2 birds with 1 stone. At least I'm trying to. So here's my list, and I think I'm choosing cinematic pad, jazzy chords, and for a live instrument to mix with electronic sounds, saxophone. Nothing can go wrong with a good old saxophone. And because this sample is the one that I need to work around, I will try to design most of the sounds myself, which is sort of a little bit of a challenge, but there's nothing more unique than making your sounds yourself. I will get back to you once I am finished, and we're gonna talk about it. If you like this video and you want to see the other episodes, hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you want to follow my process of creating your unique sound, you can grab a workbook from my Buy Me a Coffee page, links below. Oh, and if you're there, please leave a comment and feedback about how your process went.
In between spaces, like in between time, moving forward in a circular line, wasteland in the sunset, tall towers and steamy pipes, structures like cumulus clouds stretch above and beyond my life, beyond my life.
Overall, I really like this beat. I wouldn't necessarily say it has a cinematic feel, but it is certainly wide. With the jazzy chords, I especially like when it is a bit dissonant. It gives a very eerie, liminal feel to it, which I am going for. My concern with this sound design is that it sounds very noisy. I already noticed it while I was designing it and I was playing all these notes together. I tried to fix it, didn't really manage to completely remove the noise, and some noise I wanted it to be there. That kind of crackling and broken feel is the vibe I am trying to go for. But if I would do it again, I would most definitely think more about the purpose I am designing the pad for. The movement that I put underneath it, it's interesting. It sort of blends together towards the middle of this little bit I created. They lose the feel of movement. It is just a wash of sound, which can be a cool effect if that's what I'm going for. I was not sure if that's what I was going for, so it is something to note. I also liked how the bell melody worked. I was playing and improvising underneath the whole thing. I really like the lyrics and I really like what I sang. The low-pitched talking in the beginning is a good match for this vibe. I wanted it to feel like if it's from a loudspeaker in the street. The saxophone is working very nicely. I am a huge fan of Jan Garbarek, and he has an album called Officium and now Officium Novum. So he has 2 albums where all he does is plays next to a Gregorian choir. It is so interesting.
I love it when he's just dancing around the movements of the melody of the choir or goes against it.
I've known that album for a very long time. I wanted to do something similar or something that is inspired by that. I don't know why I'm scratching my ear.
Everybody calm down. My ear is clean now.
I'm so happy that I finally gathered the courage to try and do something similar. I love the sticky drum. I know it's not perfect, but that makes it even more interesting. When it came to making a drum loop, I was just putting samples on a grid or MIDI notes. A lot of times it's much more fun to do it on the pads. I'm going to do more of that in the future. I know it's not a very popular kind of music right now, but it was not my intention to make something perfect or popular. I am looking for something unique and different, and I think it is the good direction. I can't honestly wait to experiment more. During the creation of this beat, I felt confident and I was like, I'm going to add this and I don't know if it's going to work. It sounds sometimes stupid and then you put it there and it sounds kind of interesting and it lights up a bulb in your head or massages your brain like Nordic jazz massages my brain. Most likely I will continue to move on this line and I'm very interested in what you think about this experiment. Also, if you've purchased my workbook and you went through the same steps, let me know how did it work out for you, because if I could help you, oh my God, that's the best thing I've ever done. And I am so grateful that you tried. And I'm so happy for you if you've loved what you created. And if you didn't love it, I'm also happy. We can learn a lot from failures and things we don't like. Either way, it's not a waste of time. It's essential.
Follow me on all of my social media, especially on Bandcamp, because if you buy one of my songs there, I receive that money directly on my account. No middleman, minimal service fee. I've got a Buy Me a Coffee page too, as I mentioned before, and now it has the option for you to support me monthly. Check out my music making vlogs and the next part of this series if I've already made them. I do a lot of reactions, check them out too. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, listen up, here's a rap about rain. When the clouds gather, it's nature's refrain. Drops fall